Thingkho Le Malcha by KOTU Media and Documentation Cell. Issue number 75. Saturday, 25 November 2023. Headlines. 1 died in fresh Mayday terror attack. IDLF urges Central Forces protection. More youth club president not involved in gunning down of Mayday SPO, HTC. KOTU condemns repeated attacks by Mayday militants. Urges MHA for additional security forces. Kukizo people urges GI to remove N. Biren Singh from his chair. 2 Mayday politicians charged with furs. Imphal, the Valley of Death, essay for Kuki's inevitable. Martyr Story 03. Thingkho Le Malcha. Relief Center update. NCA Northeastern Christians Academy, Relief Center. Ringkai, Bethlehem Ving, Lamka District. Managed by TSP GHQ Relief Committee. Total inmates registered, 159. Male, 92. Female, 67. Kuki victims update AS on November 25, 2023. Deaths, 153. Villages burnt, 200 plus. Houses burnt, 7,000 plus. Churches and synagogues burnt, 360. Displaced persons, 41,425. 1 died in fresh Mayday terror attack. IDLF urges Central Forces protection. Crack of dawn on Saturday, the Mayday militants armed with sophisticated weapons launched a renewed attack on Jupi village in Kangpokpi district, killing a village volunteer who was guarding one of the bunkers. The incident occurred at around 2:30 a.m., when the Mayday militants carried out a guerrilla warfare on the foothill village of Jupi, a Kuki village, under Kangwe district, adjoining the Mayday-dominated Bishnupur district. Armed with single-barrel rifles, the courageous Kuki villagers fought valiantly and managed to push back the attackers. During the melee, some of the assailants reportedly went missing. The deceased villager is identified as Kupmanthang, S/OL, Jangol from L. Phaikolam village. Upon realizing that some of their members were missing, the attackers regrouped and gathered in significant numbers near Ngarian and Bishnupur district since dawn, trying to escalate hostilities in the area, vehemently condemning the incident. The Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum, ITLF, said there is an imminent threat to Kukizo villages in the surrounding areas as Mayday militants, led by a Rambai Tangle and Mayday police commandos, could launch a bigger attack at any moment, with the threat looming large due to the Mayday's continual attack on the Kukizo villages. The Tribal Forum urged the Central Security Forces to protect Jupi in the nearby tribal villages. More youth club president not involved in gunning down of Mayday SPO, HTC. The Hill Tribal Council, MORE, has clarified once and for all that More Youth Club President, Philip K. Kongsai is not involved in the killing of Chingthaman and SDPO, MORE, on October 31, 2023. This clarification was made on Saturday following repeated false allegations made against a selfless prominent social worker of MORE on social media platforms in the aftermath of the gunning down of an SPO of MORE police station. The accusation made against him are willful and unfounded, HTC said. Mr. Philip K. Kongsai is the president of MORE Youth Club, who is actively engaged in promoting sports among the youths of MORE. The Hill Tribal Council asserted that to the best of its knowledge, Philip K. Kongsai is an outspoken person who speaks his thought. A daring and honest individual who never hesitate to call spade a spade and not the kind to commit homicide. It is very unfortunate there exist people who blindly make allegation based on cooked imagination. Proof and evidences is required to make accusation. Blind accusation is tantamount to harassment, HTC added. KOTU condemns repeated attacks by Mayday militants, urges MHA for additional security forces. While condemning the barbarism of the Mayday militants for continuously intruding into the hills, the Committee on Tribal Unity, KOTU, Kangwe, has urged the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India, to provide additional security forces in vulnerable villages. In a statement on Saturday, the Kukizo body said the repeated attacks by Valley insurgents donning state forces uniforms continue unabated. The Valley groups trespassed the buffer zone in the early morning and attacked Jupi village at 2:30 a.m. The village falls under Sida subdivision of Kangpokpi district, located approximate 30 kilometers from Bishnupur district headquarters. In the unfortunate event, Mr. Kupmanthang Haokip S/O Janglal Haokip of Phaikolam village was waylaid and killed. The committee stated that the only transportation and lifeline of the Kukizo connecting Lamka and Kangwe is often disturbed by the Valley insurgents. As promised by Amit Shah on his visit to Kukizo areas on May 31, he demarcated the hills and valley by installing buffer zones, and Central Forces are supposed to neutralize any aggression from both sides. However, it can be seen that the head of the state, Manipur, is inciting the Valley groups to continue aggression, to breach the buffer zones with the task of killing, it alleged. KOTU said. Within a short span of time, 9 persons have already been killed along the periphery, mostly along the road between Kongwe and Lamka. The insecurity is now a grave concern, so the Union Home Ministry must provide additional central forces in vulnerable villages in the peripheral road connecting Kongwe and Lamka. It is truly alarming that the valley is now flooded with Mayday insurgents, incorporated amongst Arambai Tangle and Mayday Lipan, Rajya Sava MP Sanajaba and N. Biren Singh's militias, and even amongst the state police forces, it added, stressing that the changing dynamics in Myanmar have forced these insurgents to migrate in the Imphal Valley. The tribal body alleged that the Union Home Ministry has remained a mute spectator till date. It suggested that a judicious declaration of Imphal Valley as disturbed area could stop the technical anarchy of N. Biren government. There is ample peace in the Kukizo area until shattered by attacks from the valley, KOTU said, and urged the Union Home Ministry to remove the disturbed area tag in Kukizo areas for the sake of impartiality and restoring trust between the Kukizo and the Union Home Ministry. Kukizo people urges GI to remove N. Biren Singh from his chair. The Indigenous Tribal Leaders Forum, ITLF, and everyone from the Kukizo community has urged the central government to remove N. Biren Singh as Chief Minister of Manipur immediately in light of his recent remarks, where he publicly said that he is only working for the interest of the Mayday community and is fighting the tribals. In a statement issued on Saturday, ITLF said as Chief Minister of the state, Biren is duty-bound to work for the welfare of the entire population and should be striving to maintain law and order. Instead, he said he became a lawmaker to look after the interests of the Maytays. I knew this conflict was going to happen 10 years ago. The land needs to be saved. The community, Maytays, needs to be saved. That is the reason why I became a candidate in the state election, Biren said at a recent public event. The video of his speech was released by Maytay's social media handles on November 22, 2023. Manipur has witnessed a state-sponsored ethnic cleansing of minority Kukizo tribals since May 3, 2023. After almost 7 months, thousands of government-issued weapons looted from state armories by Mayday mobs are still being used to attack tribal settlements. Mayday militant groups like Arambai Tangle are allowed to roam freely with automatic weapons in Imphal and the surrounding valley areas. They are even accompanied by police commandos while attacking tribal villages. More than 150 tribals have been killed. 7,000 homes burned by Mayday mobs and more than 40,000 tribals displaced since the start of the conflict. In his speech, the chief minister talked about fighting the enemy and hinted that he was the one in charge of planning the war. Who talks beforehand about how they are going to fight the enemy? Do you think I will publicly tell the people about what I am going to do? Biren said during his speech. We need to do things with a clear head. We will not win the war by shouting loudly on social media and other platforms, he said. Ginza Walzong, ITLF spokesperson, said. Never before in the history of independent India has a chief minister publicly said he has gone to war with citizens in his own state. It is time the central government, the media, and prominent personalities call Biren out for who he is, a Mayday chauvinist who is using his power to kill hundreds of Indian citizens. Mr. Walzong continued that Kukizo tribals have nothing to expect from the communal Manipur government except discrimination and death. A separate administration is the only solution, he said. 2 Mayday politicians charged with furs. 2 Mayday politicians who have been on the forefront of hate campaign against the Kukis were charged with FIR at Churachandpur police station. The 2 politicians were identified as Maheshwar Thaunajam, National Secretary, Republican Party of India, RPI Athawale, and Hoikim Dingo Singh, MLA of Sekmai Assembly constituency. Accordingly, Maheshwar Thaunajam and Hoikim Dingo Singh were charged with offenses of promoting enmity between different groups on grounds of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, etc., and doing acts prejudicial to maintenance of harmony. Punishment for defamation. Punishment for criminal intimidation with common intention. Abuses any member of a scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe by caste name in any place within public view, by words either written or spoken, by signs or by visible representation, or otherwise promotes or attempts to promote feelings of enmity, hatred, or ill will against a member of the SC/ST. According to the complainant, that, on the 13th of October 2023, Friday, around forenoon, on one of his media campaigns, Maheshwar made a derogatory and false statement accusing Kuki people as narco-terrorists without any legal justification, with an ulterior motive and intention to cause injury to Kuki people at large. As such, it forms the basis in conducting public mischief and deduces the statement in creating or promoting enmity, hatred, ill will between the communities. Such proclamation made by him, which can be seen in public domain and causing visible representation along with telecast on the Tom TV news bulletin, with a hatred speech against another community. could perturb and stoke the communal enmity between the Mayday and Kuki community, who have been waiting for peace and settlement on the ongoing ethnic clash prevailing as of now. An act perpetrated by him with publication signified the malice and ulterior motive of the person to have personal gain for his own political career, simultaneously causing prejudices on the other hand towards the Kuki people. Such acts which intentionally insults or intimidates with intent to humiliate a scheduled tribe community at large within public view attracts the protection of scheduled tribes community under SC and ST Act. It also animates and attracts the Valley people to infringe the rights of the scheduled tribes to wrongfully gain and dispossess the land ownership, which symbolizes the intention to commit atrocity towards the Kukizo people. Dubious forehand conclusions made by him towards the Kukizo people with false allegations make him the facilitator and co-conspirator of the radical groups of Maydays, such as Arambai Tangle and Mayday Lipan, in committing heinous crime against the Kukizo people. A prima facie material is made out against him for promoting enmity between different groups. Similarly, provocation which could cause to break the public peace and tranquility, or to commit any other offense, which could heighten the tense situation between the two communities to spiral on a different level, is also one of the charges. According to the complainant, Mr. Thingkho made a public statement during the Youth Convention program of Sekmai Assembly constituency held on the October 14, 2023. At Kirkle Mayai Laikai Community Hall, wherein he explicitly and deliberately made a statement proclaiming the entire Kuki community as narco-terrorists. This is completely baseless and derogatory in nature. That, he being an elected member of Manipur Legislative Assembly, MLA, having sound mind, ethics and professionalism, making such biased and unverified exclamation towards a particular community by terming them as narco-terrorists at this peak hour of volatility in a strife-torn state of Manipur is uncalled for. Such accusations made therein without having either any reasonable classification as guaranteed by Article 14 or legal justification and sanctity infringes the right and rem of the Kuki community at large. During his speech, he further made accusations with ulterior motive, coined such defamatory and concocted allegations against a particular community, branding them as narco-terrorists for his own personal and political gains. Simultaneously, he abetted and co-conspired with the ideology of and intention in consonance with the radical groups such as Arambai Tangle and Mayday Lipan. Such an act of appeasement policy adopted by him in appeasing many youth who were present with fatigues or clad in arms during the youth convention is by far misleading and a public mischief. Therefore, it could be seen promptly that prima facie material is well established from his speech and statement wherein he incited the youth present therein, provoking them for his personal and political gains through hatred campaign while simultaneously encouraging the youth to continue their fight against a particular community, i.e. the Kuki people, and to strive to annihilate the entire community from the present state of Manipur. Hence, such statement made therein is of pure evil intention to create a false propaganda and demonize one community. His statement creates divisive and subversive enmity and could derail the peace which is highly the need of the hour. Thus, his statements made therein is by far a clear intention with malice to malign and create incitement in the youth and perpetrating crime against the particular community, i.e. Kukis. Similarly, an atrocity committed against scheduled tribe under Section 3(1)(v) of SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities. Act 1989 was also attracted under Sector 153 divided by 153A divided by 499. 505 divided by 506 divided by 506A divided by 34 IPC. Imphal, the Valley of Death, SA for Kukis inevitable. The Imphal Valley has been the Valley of Death for the Kukis since the ethnic cleansing against the Kukis unfolded in the state on the 3rd of May 2023. Many have been at the receiving end of Mayday brutality. Women raped and killed, mother and son burned alive inside an ambulance, government employees dragged out of his quarter and tortured to death, state legislator thrashed by a mob and left to death, and the list goes on. The bloodthirsty Maydays have no decency or humanity left in them, as a 23-year-old Myanmar national died on Thursday morning at Jawaharlal Nehru Institute of Medical Sciences NIMS, in Imphal East District in Manipur. The Myanmar national, identified as Kohantam from the Nan village of the neighboring country, had sustained a bullet injury to his abdomen and was brought to the hospital for treatment. Kohantam was admitted to a hospital by Manipur police around 8:30 a.m. on Thursday. However, his admission sparked massive protests from a mob that gathered outside the hospital. The mob reportedly objected to the treatment of a suspected Kuki patient. The situation at the hospital quickly escalated, leading to the deployment of a combined team of Imphal East District Police and Central Forces. The security forces managed to control the mob and prevent any untoward incidents. Despite the efforts of the security forces and medical personnel, Kohantam succumbed to his injuries. The First Geneva Convention for the Amelioration of the Condition of the Wounded and Sick in Armed Forces in the Field was adopted, enshrining the idea in international law that even in times of war, a certain degree of humanity must be preserved. International humanitarian law is founded upon the following principles: the distinction between civilians and combatants, the prohibition of attacks against those or to combat, the prohibition on the infliction of unnecessary suffering, the principle of proportionality, the notion of necessity, the principle of humanity. However, the scene in Nims Hospital on Thursday was sickening to see thousands of mobs gathering around a medical institute just to block someone who was in dire need of urgent medical attention. That too, a case of mistaken identity. The Maydays' attitude in responding to a situation like this only manifested their pure hatred for the Kukis, who were their immediate neighbor. According to international humanitarian law, all wounded and sick, no matter what party they belong to, enjoy general rights to be respected, not to be subject to attacks, killing or ill treatment, and protected. A right to be assisted and shielded from harm against third parties. The Maydays, who often characterize themselves as law-abiding citizens, have defied all these norms. The sick and the wounded are not even spared in the Maydays' pursuit of targeting the Kukis. 7-year-old Tunzing Hangzing and his mother Mina, a Mayday, was burned alive inside an ambulance by a Mayday mob on June 4th at Irwashimba village, Imphal West. Tunzing's mother is a Mayday while his father is a Kuki tribal. The demand for separate administration by the Kukis becomes more affirmative each day, with the countless number of atrocities against the Kukis emerging in Manipur. The demand for separate administration arises from the urgent necessity to safeguard the welfare and the security of the Kukis in Manipur. Even if Manipur achieve normalcy in future, it is hard to fathom that the Kukis will ever return to Imphal Valley to reoccupy their previous settlement. In their dealings with the Manipur government, the Kukis seem to have reached a point of no return. The only solution to solve the Manipur crisis will be granting a separate administration for the Kukis. Martyr Story 03. In remembrance of our martyrs for their valiant sacrifice. L. Jamkala Lundam Kuki. Personal information. Name: Mr. L. Jamkala Lundam Kuki at Laoboy. Age: 32. Date of birth: February 16, 1991. Father: Ngamthang Lungdam. Mother: Tinlam Lungdam. Permanent address: M. Songjel. Address till demise: Kongsai Ving, Imphal at Valley of Death. Baptism: December 10, 2006. Married on 22/01/22 to Mrs. Ling Hoikim, daughter of Mr. Hokojang Lungdam of Kongsai Ving, Imphal. Personal traits: 1. Obedient 2. Considerate 3. Truthful and faithful 4. Diligent 5. Avid lover of football. Education: Class 10, 2008, St. Mary's High School, 2nd Division. Class 12, 2010, Soikalal Ideal HR Secretary School, Sikpur, Arts, 3rd Division. Graduation: unfinished. Job: peon at RK Sanatambi Higher Secretary School, Panjai, Imphal. Nature of demise: beaten to death by 10+ men from a Rambai Tangle. Place of demise: vicinity of Classic Grand Hotel, Chiangmairong, Imphal. Date and time: May 4, 2023, between 4 to 5 p.m. Body location: Rims Morgue. Family: he left his parents, 4 siblings, 1 brother and 3 sisters, his wife, and a daughter. His wife gave birth on April 30th, 12:30 noon at Imphal Christian Hospital, Dulalaland. Her only daughter, Lam Nunam, is currently 6.5 months old. Tragic incident: Kongsai Ving, Imphal, was continuously attacked by Maydays. On May 4th, Laoboy along with 14 people left Kongsai Ving. He and his brother-in-law were the only men in the group. As Laoboy was a step further than his group, he unfortunately happened to be the first to receive brutal beatings from 10+ Arambai Tangle. They further took him and his brother-in-law to Chiangmairong, continuing their violence with big wooden logs. Even as the Arambai Tangle unleashed their unruly violence on the 2 innocent Kuki men, the remaining large Mayday mob surrounded, threatened, and checked the rest of Laoboy's group, including his wife. The unethical Maydays snatched away everything the innocent group barely managed to bring with them. Some of the snatched items were gold chains, cash, even tithe money that Mrs. Kim kept for her husband, mobile phones, and baby wrappers. They threw and destroyed whatever they did not snatch. In the middle of all the chaos, Laoboy's mother, wife, and the rest could hear the painful screams and wails of the 2 helpless men. Mrs. Ling Hoikim called out to God for help with intense agony. She could no longer bear to even hear the screams of her husband and brother. She herself was already in critical condition due to her recent childbirth. Yet, she went and begged a Mayday man to stop their violence. However, the majority of the Arambai Tangle did not agree. Furthermore, she could smell that they were already intoxicated and drunk. This made her realize the futility of her sacrifices and pleadings, as the Maydays were already intoxicated for the purpose of killing the cookies. On the other side, Mrs. Tin Lam, the mother of Lao Boy, was drenched in tears as she too heard the painful cries and wails of both men. Her heart broke as she heard her son calling out to her in pain, "Mother, mother." She had no choice but to hold on and stay strong for her newborn granddaughter, whom she held on to and looked after. Around 4 to 5 p.m., Lao Boy and his brother-in-law, Nyamthang Lungdam, were mercilessly beaten to death. Mrs. Tinlam's reflection: when I try to talk about my son, I do not know where to start and end. May 4th felt as if the sun even refused to shine. It was as if my eyes were blinded. The few days' journey from leaving Kongsai Ving and reaching home, Songjel, felt like one whole month. At the time my son was beaten, I was taking care of my granddaughter. I heard the loud sounds of how they beat and trashed him and my daughter-in-law's brother. I could not even cry to my satisfaction as the Maydays would hear me. When I heard how my son called out in pain, "Mother, mother," I felt so broken and helpless, out of fear and shock. Our group happened to go different routes and reach different places. Then I was in 2nd MR, but I already lost contact with my daughter-in-law. I started thinking that she met the same fate as my son. We luckily got in contact, and she told me to come to Mantrapukri. But no one was there to take me and my little granddaughter to her. I knew that she needed me so much as she herself still had childbirth pain. It's been over half a year, yet my son still hasn't received justice. We haven't either. There are moments when I still feel as though he's with us, mainly because he hasn't been given a proper burial. I don't mean to suggest that any death is acceptable, but when I witness others having a normal passing and a timely burial, I often wish the same for my son. During those earlier months, I even find it hard to see and talk to his friends, as they often reminded me of him. Sometimes I picture him walking on the road, and when I am alone or even at home, my mind wanders a lot. I take tablets every day to help me cope with my loss. What incessantly, I even run a small hotel to divert my mind. My worries increase when I think of my granddaughter. One day, she will grow up. She will search and ask about her father. How am I going to answer her? Mrs. Ling Nikim's reflection: my husband was a diligent and dutiful man. At his workplace, he refused to be absent even for a day. The owners of his workplace were Maydays. They even praised him a lot and let him handle things that they did not even trust their fellow Maydays to handle. He was deeply loved by them, and they felt broken and cried when they heard about his unnatural demise. As for me, I cried and prayed the whole night after he passed away. I did not close my eyes even for a second. It is too much to bear, as both my husband and my own brother met the same tragic fate on the same day. Whenever I remember the incident, I do not even know how to sit and stand. It is as if I go mad. I like to be around children, as it somehow helps me divert my mind. Till now, I do not have the courage to watch the video of my husband's painful fate. The Maydays are against separate administration, but they keep killing us. They treat our innocent ones, even my husband, in such brutal and unwanted ways. What kind of mentality do they have? Who on earth would want anyone to be treated that way? It is too sad, and I am speechless. Sobbed, to get back with the Maydays is impossible. All the pain and suffering must bear fruits. Separate administration is the only way. May justice be served soon.